This is Matt Russell, and welcome to the DailyFX Forum.
So here are the four pairs that I will be discussing this evening: the Euro Pound, the Aussie Kiwi, the Pound Swiss, and the Euro Swiss. So let's go ahead and pull up the charts. The first chart is the Euro Pound. If you recall, during the last report, I mentioned this area right here, about the 90.65 area, and I also mentioned that liquidity would be light, and this would be a tentative trade idea. But if you did enter, you were stopped out with about a 20 pip loss, and that's fine, or about a 25 pip loss. I mentioned entry about the 90.60 area and a stop about 90.85. But again, that's just part of trading. So moving forward now, I've added this simple resistance line to the chart. I don't like the penetration up here. This is a tentative line in my opinion, but I would wait possibly over the next 24 to 48 hours for prices to come up, actually touch this line, and once they do, I might look to make 20 pips or so in profit and maybe place about a 20 pip stop on this trade. So it would be about a 50-50 or a 1-to-1 risk to reward ratio on this trade. Again, it's just a small trade because I don't see anything favorable setting up for longer term moves. The next chart is the Aussie Kiwi, and if you recall during the last report, I've been mentioning as prices have broken out higher here that I couldn't find any favorable risk to reward entries. I did mention during the last report, which was November 26th, that we might look for prices to come down to the 26.85 area, and that's exactly what happened. They came down within a few pips of that area and then subsequently rallied. I personally didn't enter on that trade. Possibly you did at home, and if you did, I would continue to stay in that trade. And I also mentioned during that trade to have a relatively tight stop of about 20-30 pips, and I would continue I would leave that stop exactly where it is, because again, I do see prices challenging that 129 figure at least over the next several days. But again, absolutely anything can happen. So if you did enter on that trade recommendation and you're not prepared for prices to completely reverse right now and hit your stop, I'd recommend exiting the position immediately. The next chart is the Pound Swiss, and again, this is just the inverse of the Euro Pound. I really don't see anything favorable here, possibly with the doji candle here, but prices on the next candle took that out by just a few pips. That's I'd prefer to see something a little bit cleaner in terms of an entry. So moving forward, the next chart is the Euro Swiss, and we can see that this previous support line, which has acted as resistance over the past several sessions, continues. We did have this wild candle here, and I did mention on the forum when this did occur to exit all positions in the pair and just stay on the sidelines. And again, I've been reticent to place any trades in this pair because of the fundamental news affecting the pair. So moving forward now, possibly, and this would be for more aggressive traders, I'm not going anywhere near this pair, but we can. I do like the symmetric nature of this candle, and again, this could have been the Dubai news, and personally, I don't really care about any of that stuff. But we could see it's capped on the upside here about 51.30, and the downside here just above that 150 figure. But with prices right now directly in the middle of that range, I personally wouldn't recommend any entries at this area, but we can look for prices to move up again to the upper level of this range or the lower level of that range, where we might look to enter short or long trades respectively. The last chart is the Euro Aussie, and as I mentioned during the last report, I was in my mind's eye picturing a short-term daily range forming off the high of this doji candle here, and we could see that the prices blew right through that analysis, and again, that's fine. I mentioned an entry about the 63.55 area and a stop near the 164 area. So if you were stopped out on that trade, about a 50 pip loss or so, and again, that's completely fine. That's just part of trading, and we'll look for the new opportunities. I did want to add a possible trend line here to the pair, and we could see right now that prices are on or just above that line right now. I might look over the next 24 to 48 hours for prices to come down and test this line. Personally, I just don't trust it, and once I've taken a loss with a certain trade idea, I like to give it at least a little bit of time before I do enter, because you always have to watch out for that, I'm getting back at something, and it's an emotion that you always have to deal with. So again, I'm just going to give this another 24 hours or so, see if prices come down maybe just one more time, test that line. I might look to enter on the long side. Again, this is Matt Russell. Thanks for listening, and please stay tuned for a preview of the DailyFX forums. I want to take this opportunity to formally welcome you all to the DailyFX forums. I want to go through the process of how I personally access the forums and how maybe you at home, if you want to access the forums in the future, might do so. The first thing you would do is go to www.dailyfx.com, and that will bring up, obviously, dailyfx.com. And usually there on the upper right hand corner, I'll go ahead and click on where it says forum, and that will bring up the first page of the forums. And this view, I personally don't use this view, but this view actually shows you the most recent posts on all the threads within the different sections, and a little detail about those posts, so you can read through and see if there's something catches your interest. But personally, I go ahead and just click on forums and view them in the more traditional sense. Now, these are different threads within the forum. There's a section on education, such as DailyFX course instructor tips, which would be good for newer traders, and then for more advanced traders. And I just want to go ahead, personally, the way I use the forums is I would go through the individual threads, just looking for trade ideas, maybe looking at charts, looking at certain lines that maybe I didn't put up on my chart, but another trader might have put up on their chart. I tend to shy away from using direct trade recommendations from other forum members, but it helps me to sort of even out my analysis, make sure that I'm seeing things with the right mind, in terms of I might be missing stuff that other traders can see. And that's my personal way of using the forum. Every trader is going to be a little bit different in how they use it. So if you want to ask questions, if you want to become an active participant of the members, you would have to go ahead and register. So that's what I'm going to go through now, is the registration process. So assuming you're brand new to the forums, or maybe you've been here a few times and you're not really sure how it works, so I just want to walk through again the registration process. This would be the front page where you would access, or the previous page. You'd have the same little box here on the left hand side. My username and password are already filled out here, but assuming you're a new member, you would click on where it says register, and that will bring up the registration page. If you give me one moment here while my browser loads. And actually first we're going to have some terms of service and DailyFX forum rules. I do suggest reading through the forum rules. Obviously, profanity and spam and things like that are not allowed, but it also gives you insight on how to use the forum and how different traders can use it in terms of their individual needs. So you would go down to the bottom there, you'd click on where it says I have read all the rules, and then you would go ahead to the register the formal registration page, and that will bring up here. And you can go ahead and select the username, and how about we'll use 4x, and that name is already in use, so maybe add a few more x's there. Again, it really, your individual username is up to you, and you go ahead and fill in your password, your email address. Now, the most difficult aspect of registration for the DailyFX forums will be figuring out these letters in the box here. Now, I'm a semi-intelligent person, but I have a very difficult time figuring out which letters and numbers to use. Now, there is a reason for this madness. It helps with security, but I would suggest just going ahead and keep on clicking that refresh image until something comes through that you can actually identify and see. Then you can go ahead and enter your birthday, but you can decide whether or not to display that to other forum members. And then also, if you were referred by somebody, you can enter that information there. The time zone, that should default to your computer, but you should double check and make sure. And then you can opt in, and I would suggest opting in for these emails in terms if the administrators want to go ahead and send you some notices about the forum, and then you would complete registration. Now what happens is they would send you an email to the email address that you put up here, and that email will include a link, and all you would have to do is go ahead and click on that link, and that link will bring you inside the forum, and you would now be a member of the DailyFX forums. Again, this is Matt Russell. Thanks for listening.